The fuck's happening? All right. This is
All
the
right.
this is the quick and dirty, your information podcast for dummies in a hurry. I hope you guys are doing great.
What's
Hey,
up,
how are you
Joey?
doing, Nikos? I sorry, I got like distracted because I just forgot that I still had YouTube open on another page. So when everything started, I start hearing everything in double. So I was like, "The fuck's happening? What's going on? What the fuck?" So I am Joel Aflam, your host. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
ADHD at work just there. All right. I am your host, Joel Aflam, and I am with Eli the Greek Eli fucking Nicholas Pitiktekis. All right.
What's
Hey
up,
Mel, how are you
everyone?
doing?
How y'all doing? I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Had a rather interesting day at work. I had to finish a little early because I was feeling a little weird, but I'm feeling a little bit better after some apple juice and chips. So why
Holy
not?
shit. Dude, I was so angry today. I was pissed. Like nothing was working
What
well
happened?
at the open. Like everything is broke. Like every time I
Yeah.
fix something, something else fuck and I get like today that was a
Yeah.
breaking point. I just got pissed. I went out to take a walk under the rain because I was just fucking flipping the table at some point.
I
Like
feel you. I feel you.
that's so infuriating. So today it is the special episode because dark times are looming over us. Trudeau
Yeah.
is talking about a she-cession, not a recession, a she-cession. You want me to show
Yeah.
you the tweet I'm talking? I
You should
want to
show
show
them.
you. Oh
Yep. You
yeah,
should
for
show them.
sure.
Yep. Put the link on either like the description or on the chat. There. Oh, there you go. Perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect.
that's even better. Like the pandemic has
Yeah.
threatened so to stall much of the progress women have made over the past decade. In fact, many women left their job this past year. This isn't just a recession; it's a she-cession. We need to turn things around. Here's how budget 2021. So since there's so much of dark fuckery coming up down the line. The she session we must avoid at every cost possible, especially the money of our grandchildren and their sweat and labor. So we have a
Yeah.
guy that might have a good analysis about what's going on with the federal budget.
Yep. So just before we proceed, I want to say, everyone, this is a good friend of mine, someone with whom I've had a lot of good conversations on in terms of politics while at Concordia and at other events. I want to introduce you all to my special friend Caleb Owusu, who is a fellow poli sci graduate from Concordia University. He's currently doing his graduate studies at the University of Ottawa. He's currently in Ottawa right now. And he's more affectionately known, at least to me, though, to others who are good friends with him. I like to call him the Honorable Minister of Deficit Slaying because he is very passionate about
Ooh.
the fiscal health of our country here in Canada and as well the situation here in Quebec. So without further ado, Joey, let's bring in my good friend Caleb.
All right, let's. There it goes.
Well, good evening, gentlemen. How are you all
What's up,
doing
guy?
tonight?
What's up, guy?
What's up?
Well,
What's up? What's up? What's up? It's Gucci. What's Gucci? How you
that's
two
Gucci.
doing?
Gucci.
What the heck is that? It's Gucci.
Gucci? Gucci.
Yeah.
It's slang. You know, Gucci means everything's all good. Everything's great.
Gucci gang.
But the family Gucci wasn't great though because they were killing each others and doing all sort of crazy shit. Look into that. That's fucking crazy. These guys is like the real
Yeah.
life dynasty.
Yeah.
French Quebecer in
Yeah.
me is saying, of course, they're Italian. Of course, there are going to be a lot of fucking dramas and murders. And all right, so we're
Yeah.
here to talk about something really important: the budget. Why it is important is because in Canada, it is a confidence vote, meaning that if the vote on the
Yep.
budget fail, we go in
Mhm.
election. So
Yeah.
I brought the greatest mind that I know and Nicolas knows, which is we don't know a lot of fucking people. That's what's going on. So that's why also is going to help us out to understand
Yep.
better what the fuck's going on with this budget and how
Yep.
does he claims it's gonna stop the she session right away.
Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you for having me tonight. I really, really appreciate it.
It's a pleasure,
My
man.
pleasure.
Thank you, really. So, yeah, I don't know what you guys would like for me to start. Well, I guess I'll start with the definition of the pandemic
Yeah.
resulting in a she session.
Yeah.
We'll start off with a few facts. Before the pandemic, a lot of Canadian women were being paid, to my knowledge, 70 to 80 cents on the dollar for every dollar a man makes. Right? Correct.
Yep.
What the pandemic has brought is it's only gone to intensify or deepen the wealth gap between men and women,
Hmm.
right? We saw that in this pandemic. You saw that in this pandemic. A lot of men and women had to work from home. Um,
Yeah, yeah,
Of
yeah.
course.
notably,
Obviously.
notably
Yeah.
women, notably women, because they hold more responsibility being the primary caregiver. They hold the primary responsibility as being their
Mm.
child's main educator,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Of course.
What this budget does in particular, it spends the Trudeau government, the Freeland budget, Chrystia Freeland's budget, presents $30 billion in new spending for childcare over the next 3 years.
Hey, welcome, Ken Snowman. There you go.
Welcome.
3 years.
Never saw this guy. Hope you subscribe.
Why that's important? Well,
Yes.
it's important for the right reasons and the wrong reasons. Let's start with the
Okay.
right reasons.
Yeah. Of
The
course.
right reasons. Childcare in Canada is greatly overdue, especially for a G7 country. It's greatly
Yeah.
overdue. Quebec, like whenever policymakers, economists, government officials, politicians talk about implementing a national childcare program in Canada, they look to Quebec as the
Yeah.
model, as
Yeah.
the as the as the
Oh,
as the
we
shining example on how a national childcare program would work.
shining
For
example with a rough start. Let me
it,
tell you that much.
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
see now that's a fair assessment.
Oh.
That's a fair assessment. So to our non-Quebec listeners, it was actually Pauline Marois at the
Yep.
time. She was the Minister of Families in the PQ government of Lucien Bouchard,
Hmm.
if I remember, that
Yeah,
had
exactly that.
implemented childcare in Quebec.
Yep.
Mhm.
It wasn't as expansive as it is today, but it was a start.
It's always
Ergo
start like that.
Joey's comment about it being a rough start.
Mhm.
The
Hey, Andrea.
Hey, Andrea.
the following government, the Jean Charest government,
Yes.
expanded the program
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
near universal coverage.
Mhm.
Why?
$7 a day daycare.
$7
Uh,
daycare,
yeah.
exactly. Why that's significant is it tackles the she recession that Chrystia Freeland talk about. Chrystia Freeland mentioned it a few times in her budget speech. A lot of economists are in agreement. If governments were to spend a little more money on childcare, we
Define a
would be
little.
able define a little.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Define a little. If economists, if governments were to spend a whole lot of more money for childcare, it would close the wage gap between men and women.
Mm.
What does that mean? It means women would feel comfortable returning back to the workforce. Women would feel comfortable returning back to school to get an education, learn a new skill, um, learn a new trade. It closes that wage gap. Those are some of the positive reasons of
And about
why.
learning the new skill though, like we have been pissing away like $2,000 per month to every Canadian, right? We do agree. Those who weren't working, like
Yes.
basically, if our government would have been transparent, told us, well, we have to wait until the vaccine instead of like showing us the carrots in front of us of like, hey, you're gonna be out in like 2 weeks, whatever, and say it's
Mhm.
gonna take like something more around a year or 2 years. People will have been
Mm.
using that free time and that $2,000 to reorient themselves.
Mhm. You bring up a good point. You bring up a good point. The CERB
Yeah.
payments from 2020, as a policy, as a unique as a policy itself, it was a great idea. Great idea.
Hmm.
Whoever needed the money, we're in a pandemic. Here you go. Here's $2,000 every month. That
Yeah,
$2,000 was supposed to sustain you at
yeah.
least in the short run. Pay rent, cover groceries,
Which
cover
it
car
did, by the way.
expenses.
2,000 per month is more than enough to have a good living. Like if you live in an apartment in Montreal, you're good.
You're good. You're
Yeah,
very good. $2,000 a month covers your basic expenses.
yeah, exactly.
What now? A lot now. The problem with the 2 grand a month, and conservatives have cited this numerous times,
Yeah,
is that it doesn't. The problem with the money is that it doesn't incentivize people to return back to work once the economy
Yeah.
returns to full steam
Yeah.
ahead. And
that's
it's and
true.
Yeah.
it's
I don't want
and
to
it.
interrupt you. I'm sorry about that,
No, go
but
ahead, please,
my
please.
mom is a restaurant owner, and she has run into all sort of fucking issues to get like staffing because they just wanted they no nobody wanted to work. They just wanted to stay home and like a lot
Yeah.
of there were a comedian that told me, "Don't work. You can have $2,000." And since I'm a web developer, I'm like, no,
Mhm.
I'm losing money when I do that.
No, you
Yeah,
Yeah.
bring up a good point.
yeah,
You bring up a good point. A lot of restaurant owners, a lot of bar
yeah.
owners, a lot of small business owners
Yeah.
would try to bring their old employees would try to bring their employees back when we started to lift some of the restrictions.
Yeah.
A lot of these employees told their former employers, "No, I'd rather not come back. I make more sitting at home collecting 2 grand a month
Hmm.
than returning back to work."
And you even have cases of people begging to get fired.
Exactly,
Yeah.
begging to get fired so they can
Hmm.
collect their CERB. But we have to clear up a few. We have to clear up a few things. Okay.
Yeah, go on,
Of
man.
course.
Okay. You being so there are differences. There's a difference between you being laid off because of
Yeah.
the pandemic or you
Of
being
course.
fired. Okay.
Yeah, being fired because you're just basically stupid at your work, obviously.
Exactly. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I would have used nicer language, but
That's hey, good. Look, I have a
No.
T-shirt written on it. Je m'en calisse, so I am pretty
Say what you
open.
want to say, man. Say what you want to
okay,
say, man.
okay. So that was the inherent problem of the CERB, and
Yeah,
conservatives have brought it up. A few economists have mentioned it. Don't get me wrong. Giving $2,000 to every citizen who needed it during the pandemic was a fabulous idea. Was a
yeah.
fabulous idea.
It's a
It,
short-term solution, obviously.
it
Yeah.
it's
The
definitely a short-term
it
solution.
was it was the thing to do.
For
Yeah.
sure, for sure, for sure. The aside from the microeconomic implications with small
Hmm.
business owners and all
Yes,
that, there are the macroeconomic considerations.
yes,
If you look to the budget, CERB, the CERB rent assistance, wage subsidy, and a few other COVID relief programs, unfortunately ballooned the deficit to close to $400 billion for the
Yeah.
next for the well this fiscal year
yeah.
ending in I think 3 days.
And add to that, the
Okay.
economy is shut down, so the tax revenue are not there.
Exactly. the
Yeah,
the, the, the
Yeah.
tax the tax revenue is weak.
yeah.
It's weak. What does
Yeah.
that
If
mean?
I if I could sort of bring that up, just so we could
Go
bring
on,
up the
man.
Sure,
quantitative
please.
fact. And yes, I am quoting Wikipedia here, but they're very good in terms of providing a resume on this. So the projected revenue for 2021, according to Wikipedia, but again, they do have like the budget website properly. noted and cited, it is going to be $355.1 billion projected for this year for all the tax revenues, while the expenditures projected for this year is going to be 509.8 billion dollars. Like
Yeah.
that's
Oh, yeah.
Now, like those now, with everything, with all things in life, we have to add a bit of nuance. Okay,
Yeah,
we have to
obviously.
add a bit of
Of
nuance.
course,
That's why
of
you're
course.
here.
Okay, that's why I'm here. Excellent.
There you go.
Yes, the big figure numbers look bad. Okay, they look bad, of course.
It's
A
$100
three
billion.
hundred,
dollars.
a 350
Yeah.
billion dollar budget deficit,
Yeah.
a trillion dollar debt. The
Yeah.
big numbers are scary. They're scary,
It's a lot of
but
fucking money. I'll never make anything close to that in my fucking life.
of course. But here's
Yeah.
the thing. Here's the thing we have to remember. You have to look at the granular. You have to look at the granular, minute details of it.
Mhm.
Canada is able. Canada is able to spend billions of dollars in COVID-related spending for two
Yes.
reasons. The first reason is Canada entering in the pandemic was relatively in good fiscal shape. Okay, relatively in good fiscal. Like despite
Somewhat.
despite Trudeau's like 30 billion, 20 30 billion dollar
And
deficits,
the debt is gonna pay itself. Okay.
Canada was
Yeah.
Yeah.
relatively on stable financial ground.
Yeah. We're not getting dequoted or anything. Like it
Exactly.
was
Of
thing
course.
were up and up, but yeah, the debt was getting higher. We had to pay more money on the debt
Exactly.
services, obviously. But like
Exactly.
except
Yeah.
of that, we
Yeah.
weren't feeling any pain of any of it.
Exactly. We
Yeah.
weren't feeling the pain. It
Yeah.
was it was manageable.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
manageable. Okay. The second reason the second reason is interest rates were already low. Were already low. Interest
Yeah.
rates were low
Mhm.
entering the pandemic. Okay, and that's due to like wonderful work being done at the Bank of Canada, making sure that inflation is between 2 or 3%, making sure that the Canadian dollar is relatively stable in comparison to our American neighbors.
Yeah. But
So
the interest
Mhm.
rate, if I remember well, it's fucking close to zero.
exactly,
Yeah. I was already
It's
at that
it's
point.
paper thin close to zero. It's not that great.
it's no, but see, that's another realm of economics
Yeah,
and
yeah, yeah.
and another realm of
Mhm.
economics that we can talk about for another time.
Yeah, it's
But
like driving a car and like you're really close to crash, but you won't crash, right?
exactly,
It's kind of
E-
controlled, but you're taking like that corner really, really fast. That's what I
exactly,
Mhm.
mean.
exactly. So Canada entering in the pandemic was on good fiscal ground.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
was on good crucial ground. Coming out of the pandemic, yes, you're gonna hear the same rhetoric from the conservatives. You're gonna hear the same rhetoric from right leading economists saying the debt is a problem. We should start paying down our debt. We should start worrying about the size of our deficit. Personally, yes, yes, I see myself as a fiscal conservative. I won't
Yeah.
I
Of
like
course.
I won't dispute that, but money money is manageable as long as you know what you're doing.
Mhm.
Okay, if you're gonna spend,
Uh,
I feel your
I understand,
hesitation.
but every time somebody sells me like my system works as long as the right people are in,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
it's kind of shaky.
No, of
Yeah.
course, of course, of course, and I feel the hesitation from both of you. Let me
Yeah.
like, friend. Let me explain it. Let me explain this in another way.
Yeah, go
Mhm.
Let me
on.
explain this. Let me explain this in
Go ahead.
another way. Okay. 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 You're fresh out of school. You're fresh out of school. You have about like what 50K in student debt. You have about, let's just say, like 10 grand in credit card debt.
Hmm.
You feel helpless. You feel that you feel that you look at the size of your debts, and you're scratching your head. You scratch your head and ask yourself, how the f am I going to pay this off?
Hmm.
Okay,
And he has nothing. It's not like he can sell like his house or his car. He has fuck all.
exactly, exactly. You have fuck all. What
Yeah.
what you do what you do as what you do in
Especially
that
if you study,
situation.
you took that debt to study woman studies. Like, do you imagine how fucked you are? Like, it's not with an assistant manager McDonald that you're gonna pay off 40,000 of debt.
See that's the thing, and you bring up you bring up another good point. Budgets in a very abstract type of
Yeah,
way.
yeah,
Budgets are about choices.
yeah, yeah.
Of course.
Obviously.
Budgets are about priorities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So if we want to analyze last week's budget,
Oh my
Trudeau
god.
government's
Okay,
are
your internet is kind of laggy, man.
my internet.
Yeah, you were kind of lagging, but go on. That's
A
fine.
couple of
Okay,
times.
my apologies.
A couple of
Don't,
times.
don't apologize
Okay.
for your internet. You're so Canadian. Jesus
um,
Christ.
where was I? Right.
Yeah,
Budgets are about choices.
yeah.
Budgets are
With it.
priorities. If you do a read of the Trudeau budget, the budget dropped by Finance Minister Chrystia Freeland, you can clearly tell what this government's orientation is.
Yeah.
There is no foreseeable plan to pay off some of the debt. There is
How
no
can they?
foreseeable plan to raise taxes in order to do so.
Yeah.
The budget, the budget is clearly indexed. Maybe index is the wrong word. Is clearly focused on addressing the she session,
Yeah.
increasing, providing some COVID relief support into 2022.
Yeah.
And lastly, and this is more of the political thing. There's more of the political thing. The Trudeau government is using the budget as a springboard to a potential fall election.
Yeah, obviously, nobody were really expecting a really conservative or responsible type. Define responsible, right? Like in
Right.
a situation being conservative, like fiscally conservative, I do feel that would have been irresponsible because you have a welfare state.
Yeah.
No matter what your fucking position is, you have people that is
Yeah.
hooked to the welfare. You cannot
Mhm.
just all of a sudden decide, you know what, fuck off. We cannot pay for anything. You have to do a transition, and
Mhm.
in that process
Of
of doing
course.
that transition, when there's a pandemic and people are not working, you do need to pay for that. You do need to provide for them. You need
Of
to
course.
help, and that's what we're
And
doing.
if
So
I could,
no, even a
if I,
conservative back in the days when they were that the 2008 crash, right?
Right.
They spent a lot
Yeah.
of fucking money.
Of course, they had no
They went
choice.
being conservative when everything was looking for the up and up. He stopped spending and he's like, okay, so let's be responsible. It's basically Keynesian approach of economy.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Of
yeah,
course.
obviously
If I
nobody
could,
is saying it's all that this is bad. Like it's obviously like those targets. When you look at them, it's like it's perfect. It's what you should do.
Mhm, mhm.
if I could sort of say this in terms of like potential cutbacks to spending, the one thing that I did learn over what happened to my people in Greece during the height of the austerity measures is that whenever politicians of any stripe make the decision to do any sort of cutting of social services and of the budget, like what, for example, Finance Minister Paul Martin and Prime Minister Jean Chrétien did, like they had to do what they had to do, but they gave us a relatively good fiscal state. Like you got to give the Liberals at that time 100% credit for
Yep.
doing on that front. But when you see people, when you see certain folks, especially on like the more harder right, who are saying that we have to enact the most harshest austerity measures, like
At that
already
moment,
in Greece,
that wouldn't work.
it would be political suicide.
Yeah.
But to say this, people in my fellow Greeks during that time between 2007 to 2009, 2010, when things were really rough, the native suicide rate like skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Where what little they actually had in terms of like their basic pensions was already cut enough as is. So when we make these decisions, we have to calculate the human cost. or we need to have, let's say, a conversation on changing the social welfare system, that it still provides something,
Yeah.
but it doesn't go overboard. The one thing that I did learn, and I think again Caleb would sort of say, yeah, like I get that. I think have any of you had Dr. Edward King at Concordia University for political philosophy?
I took political
Don't
philosophy.
think
I remember
so.
those days. Yes.
Yeah, the one thing that I remembered in his class, and the one lesson that I remember that it still causes me to think a lot on these things, is when one's basic notion of basic political sufficiency is no longer there, you're bound to start rocking the boat. You're like you have no choice but to rock the boat. That's why when, again, during the height of the austerity measures, when at the time you had,
Dawn
if
got
I remember
elected.
correctly,
Not got elected, but they got like a lot of they won a lot of seats.
if I could just explain the reason why, just very, very briefly,
Yeah.
like how they got it. It's a weird hick in the Greek electoral system. You get 3% of the popular vote, you're automatically given 15 seats in the Hellenic Parliament, which is
Yeah.
like, that's how it works. So that's how they got elected.
Oh, okay, I see. That was proportional. Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
A bit of a proportional representation system with the winning party, which right now is Nea Demokratia, or New Democracy, which is the main center-right party. And before, it was Syriza with Alexis Tsipras, the leftist prime minister that they had before. They are given 50 seats. They were given a 50-seat bonus that they pull from party lists in order to get them that operational majority. So just to explain that very, very quickly. And also, I'm hoping I could potentially vote in a future Greek election too. I'm just hoping for that. Why not, right? Anyways, to go back to what we wanted to say, in terms of social welfare, like, I think having this conversation on, for example, like one of the main points of the budget, and if you don't, and Joey, if you could sort of provide that link to the CBC article, because we want people to understand, like, what are the points. The CBC article actually does a good job. Yeah, that CBC article does, I think, a really good job in summing up the points. I think the start of the conversation over the UBI is a good conversation to have. I mean, many social welfare programs often have a lot of that exact one.
Oh,
good. That exact one. So for me, the issue of the UBI, like, I'm split on the issue. First, I do recognize that many of the other social assistance programs that we have currently in place have a lot of holes, have a lot of gaps, and that there is a lot of, at times, unnecessary eligibility requirements. The process to apply can be complicated. Sometimes people need that relief right now. At the same time, and I actually am going to quote one of my favorite I wouldn't say commentator, but like someone that I have a lot of respect for, Pantelis himself. Caleb, to explain Pantelis, he has his comedy podcast, Who Drink Minimum, with Mike Ward himself. And he has
I know who Pantelis. Yeah, I went to one of his shows. Yeah, I know who Pantelis is. Yeah.
He actually made a very, very good point on his thing called The Morning Show, where he has that guy, George Sanzrizos, the Liberal candidate in Laurier-Dorion. He actually made a very good point that actually resonated and sort of provides that balance. If we actually implement a UBI of, let's say, if I were to implement a UBI, I would put it at $2,500 a month, because often at times, depending on where you live, the rent in the city can widely differ. We're thinking in terms of Montreal. Well, you have a lot of people living in like Toronto and Vancouver whose rent alone is going to like eat up the UBI that they get. So you have to have a little more flexibility. In the UBI, you need to factor rent. You have to factor your internet and cell phone bill, groceries, having a little extra on the side for medical stuff, for like prescriptions and that, unless, of course, they pass the pharmacare program, which that, if I could say this, the pharmacare program provision that they've implemented, that could be one of the linchpins to see if we have an election or not. And if I could just say this, if we're going to have an election during a pandemic year, can we make it a point to say, okay, we're gonna have an election. Let's have, like, I personally, you need to say whatever you want to me, but I do understand that our system here in Canada is far more secure because we actually have identity verification. You need your cards and all that.
Yeah.
But for me personally, I would feel more comfortable if the government declared a national emergency holiday. Given the pandemic, everyone is given a paid day off to go vote because you're going to have a lot of congregating at the polling booth. So you need to give people the whole day to go with advanced polls. So of course, for those who are working in like the essential services like doctors, nurses, medical support staff, and all that, they're given their 4 hours to go vote, or that the polling station can go to them. But I for me feel comfortable given the whole fiasco in the United States. Like I don't care if you call me a conspiracy theorist or not, but I want to see the bare minimum of identity verification. Though I do understand that we have that
Yeah,
because
we
as well,
yeah, because it's
yes,
a federal. Because in the United States, what make it really difficult is each state manage its election.
no,
So
exact.
you
No,
Mhm.
can you
I
can
know
have
that.
all sort of
I know that.
fuckery. Yeah, yeah, I know. But
I know,
in
and
Canada, it's
also
federal, so that's why you
I
already
know.
have an ID check.
I know. It's just because it's because as well we have to keep in mind the fact that like Canada Post, if they're going to be asked to do this, they already are overwhelmed as
Yeah,
the shipper that is the most affordable for many small businesses that are already struggling. If you're going to use Canada Post to do this, they're going to have to tell all of the small businesses that depend on them to hold off on shipping or to switch to more expensive options like UPS
yeah.
or FedEx or Purolator, which already that could be very, very prohibitive. So it's like I personally would rather see that everyone given a payday off because hey, everyone is like all of us are beyond exhausted and tired. It's like hey, you may as well have the day off to relax a little too, given the situation. So
Yeah.
I just wanted to get that off my chest on the issue of
Okay.
the potential
All right.
election.
There's a lot of to unpack just there.
Okay, there is a lot to unpack there.
All right.
Okay. I'm gonna try to run through everything from what I remember. Okay, we'll
All right.
start with
Go on,
Joey.
man.
Joey mentioned Keynesian economics.
Yeah.
Now, for those who don't know, Keynesian economics was named after a British
I guess.
economist named Keynes, who theorized, who wrote a book in the 1930s about his economic theories. In
Of
short,
course,
in times of economic crisis, governments are supposed to deficit finance, meaning governments are supposed to spend
money.
money they don't like not physically, money they temporarily don't have to stimulate the economy. And what do I mean by stimulate the economy? Create jobs in infrastructure, create jobs in infrastructure, create jobs in construction, create jobs, basically create jobs in sectors of the economy where it's easiest.
Of course.
Okay. What people tend to forget about Keynes or neglect
Excuse
to
me.
include is that Keynes advocated that once the economy was fully stimulated, government should pay back those debts.
Which
Hmm.
that hasn't been done because the nature of democracy is always to like
Yeah.
promise more and more and more, not less and
Mhm.
Yeah,
less.
it's the incentive. It's never an incentive to actually say, okay, you know what, we're just going to get rid of, if
Yeah.
let's say we're in the United States, to get rid of Social Security, to get rid of Medicare and Medicaid and some of the other
rise
programs. Like
rise the
it's always
interest
Right.
rate
within.
rise the interest rate on loan because you don't want people to not be able to, because it doesn't look good on your stats, people that doesn't buy house.
Right.
Yeah,
Right. So that's the one clarification I wanted to provide. The
of
second
course.
the second clarification I wanted to clear up is Nick, what you said about the UBI. The one UBI, how basically, without going much into detail, a UBI works like in theory. A UBI is a negative tax.
Of
Okay.
course.
Yeah.
The point of a UBI the point of the UBI, a point of a UBI is supposed to incentivize you to look for work. A UBI is just a floor.
Of course.
A UBI is just a floor. So if a future government would want to implement UBI, yes, it would be beneficial on a bureaucratic administrative point. You
Of
can
course.
amalgamate, or you can merge, or you can
That is one of the
delete.
positives. I do agree with
That's
that.
one of
Yeah.
the positives. You
Yeah.
can delete, you can merge like a lot of social assistance programs under one umbrella.
Hmm.
Okay, which would which would which would It would shrink the size of government. It would
Mm.
mean of
Mhm.
like a lot of public servants would unfortunately lose their jobs. But that is a like some people would call that an acceptable risk. I wouldn't go as high as to call it that, but
Mm.
that's how a UBI is supposed to work. Now the thing with austerity that Nick
Mm.
mentioned, I'll I'll be brave.
Caleb,
Was us yeah yes
your internet cut out again. Can you just
Yeah, I feel
rephrase
you.
what?
I feel your internet is kind of conservative, and it tries to censor you every time you talk about talk against austerity.
okay. Let me explain.
Go
What
on.
happened?
Sorry about that.
Okay, what happened in Greece was
Yeah.
austerity. Okay,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the Greek government scaling back benefits, pension benefits, government services, pension benefit, government services. That was
Yeah.
austerity. What happened in Quebec during like the first few years was of the Couillard government was
Yeah.
not austerity.
Oh, you
In
don't.
in, in
For real,
its
it wasn't.
oh,
Every
it's
time
fine.
I got the argument with other French people, I lose my shit. I'm like, dude, instead of spending $20 next week on the restaurants, you spend $10. You didn't cut your spend, just your prediction of like
Exactly.
what you're gonna spend.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what happened.
Yeah.
That's what happened in Quebec.
Yeah.
The government of the Couillard government slowed the rate of spending. They didn't cut
Exactly.
spending. They slowed the rate of spending. They cut. I
Yeah.
guess fine. They cut future spending. They cut
Yeah.
prospective spending to balance the books. Now, some people will say, "Oh, some people will say it damaged Quebec's welfare state." I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't think it damaged Quebec's
Mhm.
social state. I mean, at
Yeah.
worst, it brought about a lot of strikes
Mm.
from teachers, from daycare providers, from students wanting more financial support,
Yeah.
which is fine. Which is fine, and I agree. I agree with what they're fighting for. But at the end of the day, budgets, like I said before, are documents showcasing priorities. They're
Of
documents
course.
showcasing choices.
Of course.
Okay,
It's not set in stone, basically.
it's
That's what he
it's
said.
not set in, exactly. It's not set in stone.
Best
Yes,
proof of that, just before the pandemic, Quebec was about to vote on a budget, and they had to throw it all. Like, I know a guy that worked at the finance ministry. Like
mm,
he said, I did so many overtime for that fucking budget, and now we have to throw it at the can because it doesn't work anymore.
exactly. It
Yeah.
doesn't work anymore. That's actually what happened in Alberta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In Alberta, like not like the February before the pandemic.
Hmm.
Mhm.
So February 2020. Okay, the Jason Kenney government presented a budget forecasting forecasting an increase in oil prices from $50 to $58.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, that never happened.
Okay.
That never happened.
So you had
Yeah.
Okay,
to
The
adjust.
royalties.
Hmm.
they in a way, the government of Alberta had to throw that entire budget in the garbage
Yeah.
because it did not happen. So what did the government of Alberta do? They increased tuition. They're cutting. Alberta has increased tuition. Alberta
Hmm.
has scaled back healthcare funding. In Jason Kenney is trying to convince his government his public sector employees to retroactively accept a pay cut to balance the books.
Hmm.
Imagine, imagine, imagine your employer telling you, "Yes, I'm supposed to pay you $1,000 for the previous 2 weeks of work, but due to financial mismanagement, I can only pay you 900." How pissed off would you feel?
I'd be pissed off.
I'll
Exactly,
be
you'd
pissed
be
off, but at the same
pissed.
time, if the fucking company is about to close, man, there's nothing I can do. I'd rather have I'd rather have less money in case of salary than no fucking money.
Mm,
Yeah.
you'd be pissed. You'd be
I'd be
pissed.
pissed, but I'll swallow the pill after a while, though.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
but but at some point you would have at some point you would reach your tolerance. You would reach your limit of tolerance. How many
Of course.
pills would you have to swallow
Yeah.
But have
until
they?
until until you realize enough is
Uh,
enough?
Come on, man. Public sector employees, did they swallow a lot of pills lately?
Especially the
Um,
Quebec government.
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's
Like they
relative.
were crying for like an augmentation of like 1% back in the Couillard day. And I was
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
my
yeah.
dad was working in a fucking paper mill and he lost like 10% of his fucking salary. So don't come cry to me.
You know what? You know what? I remember the Couillard government. I think in
Yeah.
2016 or 2017, retroactively agreed to increase the pay of Quebec's medical specialists.
Yeah.
Okay,
I remember that
Legault,
story.
right? It was a huge controversy. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
the president of the Treasury Board at the time defended it by saying, "Oh, this was like a money. This was a accrued pay that was not given to these medical specialists over the past, like, I think 8-10 years.
Yeah.
Um, so it was signed, sealed, delivered. It was approved by the National Assembly. Okay, 2 years
Yeah.
later, 2 years later, Couillard gets elected. No,
Mm-hmm.
sorry, Legault gets elected to
Yeah.
office. His first act in office, cancel those retroactive pays.
Yeah. He got elected
Yep.
on that though. Like
Mhm,
that was one of the things he was yelling about when he was in the opposition. So
mhm, mhm.
yeah,
He
Yeah.
kept,
well, obviously.
he kept
If I could just
crying.
if I
Go
could just
ahead,
take
go
a
ahead.
second to if I could take a second to clarify one thing for those who are watching. The Treasury Board within the Quebec government and within the federal government in Ottawa is one of the things hugely responsible towards the administration of the public service, the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
So like them, like federally, like the Treasury Board, you have like the Canadian Minister of like the Minister of Canadian Heritage and the Finance Ministry that sort of have like a tripartite, as well as Public Works. Like they have sort of like co-manage the bureaucracy. I just wanted to provide a clarification for the public administration nerds. Like I remember taking my
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
professor,
yeah,
I
yeah.
remember taking my professor Brooke Jeffrey in Canadian Public Admin. Yay! I'm using that knowledge for once.
Thank you. First, thank you for the clarification. Thank you for the
Anytime,
clarification,
buddy.
Nick. Nick. It's welcome. It's welcome. So that's what happened in Quebec.
Yeah.
That's what happened in Quebec. Um, since we're doing since we're doing a comparison in Ontario, the progressive conservative leader at the time, Tim Hudak, had
Yep.
campaigned in 2014 that
Mm-hmm.
in order to like balance Ontario's budget, he would get rid of 100,000 like public sector jobs in Ontario.
Mm,
That was his
good luck with
promise.
that.
See, that's the thing. That was his promise. Okay, he made that his key campaign promise.
And did he get elected?
No, he lost.
Ah, there you go. that's what I said. Like basically, democracy, you cannot promise cut. You have to promise fucking more and more all
that's
the time.
that's that's the nature of democracy, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
the nature of democracy. The
When
more
you
you're
talk
able to
about
give,
yeah, there you go. Like the collective wisdom, not so much.
mhm, exactly, you reap
Yeah.
the benefits you sow,
Yeah, there you
right?
go.
But you know what? Let me bring up another topic about
Go
this
on, man.
budget. Let me bring
Of
another
course.
topic about this budget. Healthcare spending.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
To our non Canadian viewers, just a clarification: the Canadian provinces are the primary
hmm
administrators, service providers of healthcare
Yeah.
in
Section
Canada.
92, baby.
It's section 92 of Canada's constitution. Okay.
Yep.
The federal government, if the federal government's role in any is to finance some or most of it.
Mm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. This okay. So throughout the pandemic, provincial premiers knocked on Trudeau's door. They called Trudeau. They sent him numerous letters. Legault even organized a premiers conference, like late summer,
Mhm.
asking Ottawa to increase its contribution, its healthcare
Social transfers.
contribution from 28% to 35%.
Damn it.
Why it's significant for a couple of reasons. The first reason is historical.
Hmm.
When Canadian healthcare was implemented when healthcare was implemented in Canada, there was a mutual understanding.
That's Peter just there. I'm Canadian
There
insult to Americans budget. Like,
there was a mute there was a mutual understanding that Ottawa would pay
yep.
half and the provinces would pay half.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Since the late 60s, since the late 60s, due to fiscal pressures on due to a change in economic climates, fiscal pressures on the federal government,
Yeah.
Ottawa started to like scale back its contribution from 50% to 45 to 40 to 33 to now 28.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
The provinces kept upping to make up for that shortfall. The provinces had to go into deficit. They needed to deficit. They needed to deficit finance the
Well, yeah, but
shortfall.
the province
The
of
shortfall
Quebec is offering some stuff that other provinces doesn't have though, like fertilization. For how do they
in
call
vitro
that?
fertilization.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. We have
The
that. Like it's
pharmacare
covered.
program as well. The pharmacare
Yes.
program as well with an MQ.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Quebec is the only province that has a provincial drug program.
Yeah.
Okay. Which I adore. It's fantastic. It's a
Yeah.
fantastic program. Why I bring that up is to 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 a lot of provinces, the budget made no mention of increasing healthcare transfers to them.
Oh, that should though, because we're in the middle of a fucking pandemic.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like instead
Exactly.
of if there's a place where you can piss money and nobody's gonna be mad about it, healthcare.
It's healthcare.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
healthcare. But here's the thing. But it's easier said than done,
Yeah.
right?
Obviously.
You know
Yeah.
why it's easier said than done? Because of this wonderful thing called like minimum
Standards.
national standards. Okay.
Mm.
I remember that.
Minimum national standards. Okay. What that means, what that means is yes, even though Ottawa has the money,
Yeah.
it's has the money. The provinces are the main administrators
Yeah.
of healthcare. So understandably, the provinces need to bother Ottawa for more money. Ottawa will tell the provinces, "Listen, we have no problem giving you money. We just want you guys to follow like our conditions
Yeah. Some
on
guidelines.
how some guidelines on how you want
Yeah.
to spend the money."
That's kind of makes sense though. Like if I send money to somebody, like if you ask me for money, I'll be pretty pissed if you just go buy lottery and fucking beer.
But
Yeah.
here's the problem. Here's the problem. Every time that discussion comes up, Quebec gets pissed,
Yeah,
Ontario
obviously.
gets pissed, Alberta
Yeah.
gets pissed, the Atlantic provinces get pissed. Why?
Yeah.
Because each province each province has a pressing each province's healthcare priorities are different from one another,
Yeah.
right?
Obviously. Yeah. That
In
makes sense.
British Columbia, there's the ongoing opioid crisis, right?
Yeah. The
Oh
fentanyl.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. There's the ongoing
Yeah.
opioid crisis
I want to
in
move there now.
in Quebec. In Quebec, we have an aging population, palliative
Yeah.
care, long-term
Yeah.
care.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, in the province in the Atlantic provinces, they're like the lack of. I mean, I wouldn't say there's a lack of basic resources. There's a lack of consistent basic resources
Hmm.
in the Atlantic
Yeah.
provinces.
Yeah, but if
Okay,
your
Yeah.
diet is based on potatoes and lobsters, of course you're not gonna be that healthy.
no, but here's the thing.
Well, also, Well, also to say
Sorry.
this, Caleb, the Atlantic provinces, the highly seasonal nature of their economy leads them to
Yeah.
be in that position, unfortunately. If I could
Unfortunately.
just ask you one question, Caleb, and this is something that I've been rattling on, and I'm hoping maybe, given that you're more involved into it and given your studies, I'd like your opinion. There's
Mm,
been a growing conversation over the issue of a lack of paid sick leave across the
mm,
entire country. I
Mm.
know here in Quebec, like the first 2 days that you take off is paid, but for me, like I definitely see the need to having a good 10 to 14 days of paid sick leave. Do you see the possibility with this budget or in another piece of legislation of that finally being implemented? Like we can shit on the NDP all you want, but I have to give Jagmeet Singh full credit for using his position in the balance in sort of maintaining the minority situation that we are in. You got to give him credit for advocating on that because paid sick leave could have helped a lot, especially during the pandemic or even beforehand. So, what do you have to say on that?
what do I have to say about that? It's funny that you bring that up because the Doug Ford government just presented legislation earlier today, like a couple, like I think like earlier today for 3 paid sick leaves.
Yeah,
Wow.
I saw the
Okay,
news. I saw the news. Yeah,
what do I think
it's a
about that?
temporary program.
What do I think about that? So I have two thoughts. There's my economic thought, and then there's my political thought. Which one do you want first?
Uh,
Economics.
Economics.
whatever
Okay,
make you
sure.
feel safe.
Okay, I'll start with economics. I'll start with economics. Is it is it the right policy move? Absolutely, absolutely. Making absolutely as long as it's targeted. Okay,
Yeah.
as long as it's targeted. Okay, paid sick leave is beneficial. We're in a pandemic. If we want to like, if we want to like, if we want to bring the curve down, if we want to stop rising cases, if we want to slow the rate of variance,
Yeah.
offer paid sick leave to folks. Again,
Yeah.
you have to incentivize people to stay home. How
Mm.
do you incentivize people to stay home? You offer them a reward for staying home. Money.
Yeah.
Money.
Yeah.
Okay. You offer them to stay home. Money. And with that money, well, understand. And then there's this, without going much into detail, if you give consumers money, they will do one or two things with it. Immediately spend the money
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
on the necessities of life, so that they're on the necessities of life, or they save it. They save it for the future once everything reopens, right? Once everything is open. Offering paid sick leave to Canadians is a wonderful idea on an economic front.
Mm.
On the political front, it's interesting. It's very interesting, and I'm gonna
Mm.
explain why. Why you would never expect a Ontario conservative government in in bringing forth a proposal at all. It's not in their wheelhouse.
Hmm.
Mm.
Like politically, economically, it's not in the wheelhouse of a conservative party to offer paid sick leave.
Hmm.
Mm.
Why? Because it further goes to,
Welfare state, nanny
well,
state,
makes this
Yeah.
every epithet you want to put them. Yeah.
exactly. It makes people. It fuels the ongoing narrative that people are dependent on government for people are always dependent on government. Why the progressive conservatives presented this in Ontario is interesting. I'm not sure if you both of you had the chance to watch Doug Ford's mea culpa in his mother's house a couple of days ago.
Then watch it.
Okay, so in a word, well, Doug Ford was forced to quarantine for 2 weeks as one of his
Mm-hmm.
staffers caught COVID, and he admitted at a press conference a couple of days ago that he fucked up. He
Oh,
fucked up.
that's as a French Quebecer, you don't know how it make me feel warm and fuzzy because like our politician apologizing, we're talking about French people, right?
Mhm.
Like there's no fucking way they're gonna have to apologize. Like Not so long ago, like François Legault gave himself like a perfect note.
Oh yeah, but he gave himself a perfect note based on his Facebook comments. So that's another discussion.
What? Can he
Yeah, no,
read? Like I went into his comments and like it's a bullet between the two eyes and go fuck yourself and all sorts of fuck off.
no, but see, no, François Legault, and I remember this explicitly because I found it on François Legault during like question period at the
Yeah.
National Assembly said, "I'm well liked. Read my Facebook comments. People like what we're doing." Okay, okay, okay. If if that if you're basing if you base your the success of your government or the success of your public policies based on Facebook comments, that's another problem.
Yeah, they have teenager standards.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Jesus
You
Christ.
exactly. You lower yourself to that kind. Listen, if you want to lower yourself to that kind of denominator, if you want to craft, if you want to make public policies or campaign on policies based on like
Social
on
networks.
on social media,
Yeah.
you're unfortunately going to end up with a Trump.
Yeah.
Yeah. You
Okay.
got compared to Trump
Yeah.
more than once,
Mhm.
actually. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't like policy making by tweet. I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
appreciate. I don't appreciate government officials
Yeah.
making official announcements over Twitter.
I don't
It's
like anything happening on social networks, so policies, that's one of them.
Hmm.
like fine if you want to use Twitter to intent. If you want to use Twitter for
Yeah.
like a huge like, you want to use Twitter as part of a political communication strategy or a campaign
Yeah.
like as a tool for campaign strategy. Go right ahead. You're the world's your oyster. But when
Of
it comes
course.
to government, when it comes to being in power, when it comes with implementing policies or asking folks or seeking feedback on a particular government policy, Facebook is not the way to go. Unfortunately,
No.
Yeah.
Facebook is not the way to go. If you want to fundamentally change a policy, or if you want to implement a program, don't use Facebook. Don't use Twitter for that.
Yeah.
Use old fashioned methods.
Yeah.
Okay? Call people, send them letters, send them emails. Okay? That's how you do it. It's yeah, people find that old fashioned. Yeah, it's so old school, but it works. It works. Anyway, that's one point.
And I like receiving that kind of communications from a political party because when I don't have any filter for my joints, basically that that helps a lot.
Anyway, back to the main topic on
Sorry about
the
that.
no problem. Back to the main topic on paid sick leaves.
Yeah.
It's it's an interesting proposal. It's
Yeah.
it's it's well deserved. It's I think it's overdue. It's
Mm.
largely overdue. I'm
Yeah.
sup- I'm unfortunately upset that it took a pandemic to make people realize it.
Yeah.
To make people like finally wake up to the reality of
People
paid
getting
sick
sick.
leave. Like yeah, it's like it's
Jesus
weird.
Christ.
It's weird. It's like people just realize. Wait a minute, people get sick. Yeah.
Yeah, and you can die of a
Another,
cold. Like there's
like,
people that are really vulnerable on colds, and like just you getting a stupid cold, you give
yeah.
it to somebody that is like immunodeficient or whatever at your workspace. It's
Yeah.
fucking yeah. So it took like COVID-19 to make us realize that going to work sick is stupid.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Another
Hmm.
thing that I'm sort of hoping, and maybe we could sort of have this discussion in a future episode. Another thing that I've sort of woken up to a little more is the issue of burnout, because I think all of us are feeling a level of burnout that is bordering on the inhumane. Like the fact that you have a lot of workers here in Canada that still don't have like a bare minimum of like 3 or 4 weeks of paid vacation, or how a lot of people can't get the day off on any of our statutory holidays like Saint Jean Baptiste, Canada Day, Labor Day, Christmas. Like when you have a lot of people who are working on Christmas, like come on, it's Christmas, give the day off. Like I'm hoping that this will also lead to that discussion as well, because burnout is a real thing, and the more burnt out you are physically, mentally, emotionally, and for the more religiously inclined like yourself, Caleb, because I know that that's how you are, and all power to you. Like spiritual burnout as well, since right now a lot of people aren't able to go to their churches, their synagogues, their mosques, whatever have you. I'm hopeful, like for me, if I could sort of say this in a more positive note, like I'm hoping first in the future we have the paid sick leave, like 10 to 14 days, and also maybe the possibility, though I do understand for certain sectors of the economy it's not affordable, but certainly maybe a tax regime that could incentivize could help. Maybe increasing the minimum vacations to from 2 weeks to 3 or 4, and maybe saying, hey, stat holidays, it's an actual holiday. Let's give people the day off, unless of course you're in an essential service. In that case, I understand. Double, like your pay is double time and a half to account for that, which I understand. So that could certainly be a discussion for another point. But I just wanted to get that off my chest, because I think that's another long overdue conversation. Because if you're talking about health and like public health, again, when you're burning yourself out, working 50, 60 hours a week, or even doing 40 hours, but then you're juggling other things at the same time, it's going to come to a point where that burnout is going to kill your body off. And when your body is in that state, you're more susceptible to getting sick with the common cold, flu, but now the coronavirus and other things. So it's like, we need to have that conversation. We need to start, like, if I could sound like an activist here, for a lack of a better word here, like we need to start telling people enough is enough with romanticizing burning yourself out. Sure, work hard during that 40, 50-hour work week, but then disconnect from work. Have a life outside of the job too, you know?
You brought up a lot of good points, and I'm gonna take the time to address them as best as I can. So with this pandemic, this pandemic has made people realize that
Obviously, we're not talking about 15 years of sick leave, Peter.
That was epic.
That's like half of your fucking professional life that you got paid doing nothing.
Oh, yo, honestly, big up to that guy in Italy, man. Honestly,
Jesus
Yeah,
Christ.
man.
Remind me that story about that programmer that like figured out a way to automatize his job with code, and then proceed to forget how to code. So basically, just got paid for years without doing nothing, and then he got fired because he noticed that he automated his own job.
No, but honestly, no, I'm like respect to that guy, that Italian man who respect to him. Honestly, that was like that isn't a meme. Like, yeah, people find it funny, but that's not a meme. That's like boss. That's like boss shit. Okay. Anyway. Where was I? Right.
Yep. Paid sick leave and the burnout.
The burnout. Very good point. The pandemic has obviously, once this pandemic is over, we're going to have a lot of philosophical discussions on the idea of work, especially working from home, working remotely. Working remotely. Is that a conversation we need to have right now? Yes and no. Yes, because at some point with the rate of technological advancement, with public transportation, with the automation of work, a lot of people will be forced to work at home. It's
if they work at all.
If they work, they work at all.
That's another subject, but
that's another subject. If they work at all. Okay. No, that's the yes answer. The no answer is unfortunately it's not an immediate conversation that a lot of people want to have.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're in a pandemic. People want to get out of the pandemic as soon as possible.
Yeah.
We want to return.
We want to deal with the immediate issue first before we start having the grant. No, that's completely valid and completely logical.
Exactly. 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 How that relates to the burnout are a few things. The first thing is fine. If we're going to transition people from working in the office to working at home, we should like employers, companies, organizations, the private sector, and government as well will need to apply the same workplace protections
Yeah.
Hmm.
in the office with home.
Yeah.
But but it needs to be it needs well they need to be reactive, proactive, and reactionary.
Mhm.
Well, reactive are the same thing. Okay.
Mhm.
Here's one good example. The right to disconnect. Okay.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The
Oh
right to
yeah.
disconnect. Okay.
Yeah.
Jesus
For those
Christ.
who don't.
So many fucking companies ship you a computer with trackers on it and they watch whatever the fuck you do. And even in the US, I think they have some companies with companies policies where you need a webcam always open on you
Mhm,
when
mhm,
you work from home. It's fucking crazy.
mhm, mhm, mhm. That's privacy, and that's another good point. In
Yeah.
working working like the right to disconnect, however, is would be your employer not allowed to send you emails as soon as you log out for the day. If you
Yeah.
have a 9 to 5 job and you sit in front of your computer, sit in front of your those should be that should be the only reserved time your employer is allowed to send you emails.
Uh, I
After
have
five
kind of.
o'clock,
Yeah, go
or
on. Sorry.
after 5 o'clock, or after your shift is over, your employer would not have the right to send you follow up emails for work the next day.
Not sure we
Okay.
should put it into a policy, and I understand where it's coming from, but because a lot of employers they works all the time. That's
Mhm.
the lifestyle. They work, 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 work.
Of course.
So for them, like they at work, they don't check the hour. They don't check what time is it. So when they need to send out a communication, they will just send an email.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
Mhm.
I would suggest a lot of people doing 9 to 5 job don't install anything work related on your phone, on your personal
Right.
computer. Just close everything, and whatever the fuck you are sending you, don't respond like after your work day. That's all.
Of
Don't
course.
read it.
Of course.
That's
Yeah.
your responsibilities. It should be a policy, in my humble opinion.
Of course. But let's go back. Let's deconstruct your point a little,
Yeah,
Joey.
yeah.
Okay. You mentioned a lot of work. You mentioned that a lot of employers work on a 24-hour cycle.
Not
Okay.
24, but they work fucking hard.
No,
A lot of
they,
them work hard. Yeah,
of course, a lot of people have long work days.
yeah, yeah,
Here's 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 a good example. Um, here's a good example. If you are a journal, well, maybe a journalist is not a good example. I'm just thinking of a job that is fast paced,
yeah.
that you always have to be on your feet. Even when you're asleep, you have to be on your feet. Um,
Someone
I don't
working at a bank, for example. Like I heard of a story where a lot of junior bankers and like Goldman Sachs and some of the other major financial firms in the United States, like the junior or like entry level tier workers, like they're basically there like 70 to 80 hours a week with like little to no disconnect. And now they're doing
know.
even more because a lot of them are working from home.
Mm.
Mm,
And
mhm,
even in
mhm.
IT, like when you manage servers, like you would I would understand why you would receive emails because during the night, if your servers crash down, you still need to get up and go work.
Exactly,
So,
exactly.
but as a policy, when I at my old job, what I used to do is not read the email from my boss, like my team leader, like after work, because he always working. So in his head, it's just okay. I'm gonna send over an email, and in IT, a lot of it's that kind of people self-absorbed in their head, and like okay, I'm
Yeah.
working, and for him, he's just doing his job. He's not thinking that I'm not working. But he
Yeah.
don't yell at me if I don't read his email, right? So
Mhm.
Mhm.
I don't read his email. Like if it's an automated message from one of the system I installed to monitor a service or whatever, if I receive that, I'll read and I'll go check. But if it's my boss, I won't read it.
Mm,
Mhm.
mhm, mhm, mhm. That's I guess it's again it's about the choice of the employee. If they
Yeah,
want to install or if they want to link their work email to their personal cell phone, that's on them.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
Yeah.
on them. That's on them. They should be mindful that
Yeah.
once they do that, there's possibly no turning back. Okay,
Yeah.
there's no turning back. If your employer sends you an email at 9 p.m. concerning something for tomorrow, there's a chance that you're going to look at it rather than just like deconnect. Why?
Mm.
Why? Because the next morning your employer may ask you to work on it right away,
Yeah.
and you probably did not use like an hour or two last night to read the email, go through it, understand what your employer wants to do for the following day.
Mm.
That's a risk, and it's a risk that comes with potentially losing your job, or angering
Mm.
your boss, or angering your fellow coworkers.
Yeah.
Okay, it's now how does that lead to, how does that lead to like burnout, like burnout from school, burnout from work, spiritual burnout
Yeah.
is
I think we lost him again.
Caleb, you there?
Caleb? Jesus Christ. Yeah, I'm starting to think now that his internet is like
Burning out
conservative.
itself.
Yeah, yeah, no. Or is he on his phone?
No, I told him to do
Yeah.
to do all of this on his laptop.
All right. So, okay. So, unfortunate to finish it like this. If do we see him moving? No. Okay. All right. So I guess we're gonna close on this because it's just the quick and dirty. Usually we keep it around 30 minutes. Not
Yeah.
the so quick and dirty for today, though. But that was to be expected with a guest. So you have
Yeah.
anything to add, Nikos?
Well, I think certainly we need to have a further discussion on issues pertaining to like the paid sick leave and other
Yeah.
things for a future episode. It's certainly something that we need to expand on further.
Fucking like this guy. You should have him back a couple of times.
No, we definitely do. We
Yeah.
definitely do.
All right. So, do you have anything to promote before we close this?
Yeah, so to everyone watching, first again, thanks a lot for tuning in. This Saturday at 7 p.m. on my Instagram account, I will be doing my third episode of the
he's
Adventures
back.
of Captain YOLO show. I will be discussing, again, in terms of pop culture, I will be discussing everything that's happening within the Star Wars world. Like, for example, the upcoming cartoon, The Bad Batch, on Disney Plus. So I hope you tune into that. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this Saturday.
Okay, excellent. So for me, what I have, it's the Saturday afternoon podcast. It's a pretty fun podcast I do alone, where I just like try to speak English as much as I can. Usually I have guests, sometimes I don't. This Saturday I don't think I'm gonna have a guest, so I'm gonna try to stop being fucking lazy and just bring up some subjects so I have something to talk about instead of spending like 30 minutes being like and then going like shitty open micers and being like, what else? What else? All right. And whatever happens, if you miss the Saturday afternoon podcast, it's not a problem. But if you ever dare to miss the main event of the week, you're fucked, my friend, because this is gonna be the shit, because we're receiving Zach Kick, local comedian from Montreal. He does a lot of absurd shit, and I think he started a podcast recently. So don't miss it. 8:30 p.m. on Sunday on his YouTube channel, the same place where you're fucking watching it anyway. So, Gus, thanks for being here. Caleb came back. I'm gonna thank him too. Thanks, Caleb, for being here.
Thank you. Sorry about that. I think my internet like conked out for the night.
Yeah, he was like
Yeah.
too many welfarism. Fuck it, I'm out.
Yeah.
All
Oh
right.
god.
So
Well,
on,
thank you for having me. Honestly, feel free
My
to
pleasure,
bring me
man.
back. Feel free to bring
we'll
me
think we
back.
we'll
I
will.
put
really
you back, man.
appreciate
You're a
it.
fucking great guest.
Yep.
I appreciate that. Appreciate that.
The
Thank you.
first
Thank you
and
for
the best
the.
guest we ever had.
Thank you. Thank you. Am I allowed to plug my socials?
Yeah,
Go
go on,
ahead.
man. The floor is fucking yours.
Okay.
Yeah,
So So if people want to follow me, I am at Caleb Owusu-Acheaw, Acheaw on Twitter. On Instagram, I am C Owusu Owusu Acheaw on Instagram. And I no longer have Snapchat. I deleted that. I'm not on TikTok, although I'm thinking about it. And
I certainly am not.
The Snapchat is gonna be the subjects of your next appearance. Go on.
wait. If we want to do a discussion on Snapchat, we can. I have no problem. I have a lot to vent about Snapchat.
Yeah,
So
we're just closing though, so that's not the moment for
Yeah.
that. Any
Yeah.
other stuff you want to plug?
no, I'm good. I'm good. I just
Good.
want to make sure. I just want to thank everyone for attending the this episode. I really appreciate it. I want to thank you both for inviting me. I really appreciate it. It's good. It's good to get a layman's understanding of budgetary economics,
Yeah,
Yep.
and
exactly.
I
It's a
hope
complex subject.
I've done justice to that
You
fact. I
did.
hope I helped your audience, your listeners, your viewers be
Okay.
more at ease with Canada's fiscal outlook for the next 3 years to come.
Hmm.
Awesome. Thanks for letting us interrupt you during your explanation with our dumb stuff.
Not a problem.
All right. And on this, folks, thank you. Fuck you. Bye.
Have a nice day, everyone. Take care.